Greetings and peace. I hope you and yours are doing well today, wherever you might be watching this from. Now, the title of this video today, as requested by one of my dear friends and brothers, is my analysis of the Sufi Orders in America, or Sufi groups in America, for myself, who's a Sufi that comes from the East, from Pakistan. And my family and friend background from Pakistan is related to the Chishti Tariqah, to the Naqshbandi, and all of those tariqahs that are there, Qadariya, everything in terms of the sheikhs, the imams that myself and my family have studied under, have their blessings under. So we have those that are behind us. So coming to America and growing up here and seeing, I guess, Eastern principles or philosophies or practices or orders applied here, I was told to give my analysis of it. So I'm going to try to keep this short and to the point, and I'll be honest about how I feel, and just giving you a heads up if any of you feel offended in any way. But I always promise before God to speak the truth, and the truth is what I will always speak. Because to get back to the Sufi topic, Imam Ali radiyallahu anhu said that the aspect of a true friend is the one who points out my faults to me, the one who keeps patting me on the back and saying, oh, you're good, all that, praising you. That's the one you got to watch out for. The one who tells you like it is the one that you got to keep in your corner, because he or she is strengthening you to be at your best and pointing out your faults to you. And that goes for any path that you follow. You need that true well-wisher. So my friend requested I give my perspective, and here it is. So when I come here to America, I see that there are many souls that are traumatized, that are broken, that have suffered from abuse, hypersexuality due to their abuse. Just so much trauma and hurt from broken homes, broken families, because the structure of the family, the nuclear family, or having the mother and the father and traditional religious values, that has kind of diminished over time. So you have these individuals that will get attracted to these groups, like Sufi groups or New Age groups or spiritual Eastern groups, you name it. Whatever it is that they need to fill that void within themselves. So they do that, instead of healing themselves first, they jump into these groups. Not saying all, I'm not generalizing. I know a lot of good Sufis here from the US as well. But it's my honest observation of the majority. Obviously, you're going to have the few good ones too. So you can't paint everybody with a broad brush. That said, you have to look at it this way, where a lot of these individuals that join, they look at the Sufi aspect of the oneness, okay? But so by the oneness, they means that by the oneness, they mean that any tariqah you follow, whether it's the Naqshbandi, Qadariya, Chishti, whatever it is, as long as you're following that tariqah strictly, then that's helping you get to God. But here, what you see is everyone's mixing in teachings from other paths and groups into the Sufi life. That's where you go wrong, where they're mixing in stuff from groups that your mainstream Islam doesn't consider normal or like part of the true Islam. And a lot of those groups are like ethnocentric in many ways, and they have like their own backing and their own build. So, and on top of that, a lot of these people that follow the Sufi path here start mixing the New Age stuff about all this spiritual New Agey stuff that I see mixed in, on top of collaborating and mixing info from these other groups that have their own basically claim in society, or only in America. A lot of the spin-off Islamic groups that don't exist outside of this country, because I guess the racial issues at the time made them come to be who they are today in terms of their standing and identity in society. That's fine, I respect that. And the Sufi path also tells you that everything is one. Allah is the only reality. I understand. Everything is indeed one. But when they tell you everything is indeed one, it's like what it says in the Holy Qu'ran, Surah 2, verse 62, that indeed those who believed, whether you're a Jew, Christian, Sabian, as long as you do the right thing, even before the time of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, because Islam is a religion that has existed since day one, and has been a continuation of revelations. So as long as you follow God and do the right thing, then on the day of judgment you shall have no grief. That says that in the Holy Qu'ran. But you gotta stick to the path that you're following. If, let's say, I'm sticking with Sufism, then I gotta follow a tariqah that's following Islam, the Quran, and the Sunnah strictly. Anything that goes outside of that, you're cheating yourself. You're cheating yourself out of the path, and basically you end up hurting yourself in the long run, where at the end you get disappointed. And I know these guys here that are switching tariqahs left and right, like your average promiscuous man or woman jumps from one body to another. God does not like that. Allah is not happy with that. You gotta stay firm on who you are and what you stand for. Then there are some tariqahs here that I see that are about like poetry and just the oneness of all races and religions. That's fine too. But again, if it's not in the Quran and the Sunnah, then you're going away from the true Sufi Eastern path, from what I've seen in Pakistan and these other places where I actually been. I've been there. I'm not somebody that has only been in America. I have been to other parts of the world, so I know what I'm talking about in terms of my experience and my epiphanies that I had with the sheikhs and everything else. So here, it's one, you have the traumatized people that get attracted into these orders. And a lot of the times I have heard stories where the leaders of these orders are sexually exploiting their disciples or students, or they're rapping or smoking weed or doing all this stuff that goes against Islam, because they're mixing in their American culture, their American trauma. And like I said, instead of healing, they fill that void with the Sufi path, thinking that it'll help them. That's not how it works. First, you got to fix yourself before you tread on any path, because you're not only cheating yourself, you're cheating others who are there with a good intention to help you. So in terms of the bayat, where you take the aspect of joining the order. So the bayat means that it's your intention to follow somebody or follow a sheikh or a tariqah. And in the Eastern perspective, they tell you, as long as your intention is pure. There's one sheikh that I know of, the Naqshbandi tariqah, from the city of Lahore in Pakistan. And there they tell you that in order to follow that sheikh, there's so many people that reached out to him, Sheikh, I want to take the bayat, I want to take the oath and the allegiance and all that stuff that everyone goes crazy for. And he said, as long as your intent is there to be with me in your heart, then you don't need to be there in person with me to take the bayat. You already took the bayat with your heart, mind, body, and soul, by believing in your heart and mind that you wanted to follow the Naqshbandi tariqah. And that was that. So you don't need to go all crazy here like they do over here about the bayats and creating disciples. And with the age of the internet, anybody can follow the Eastern Sufi sheikhs, follow their teachings, listen to their lectures. Everything's on the internet now. We live in the age of information where people are connected now more than before. So now we have the aspect of the charlatans, a lot of the charlatans that exist in the States, that are probably misusing their disciples in some way, whether financially, sexually, in other ways, or using them or taking advantage of their good nature, because they're letting their Western trauma and culture mix in with the Sufi stuff, and that kind of like mixes up, and it creates a disaster from some of the stories that I heard or from some of the things that I've seen. And there are very few Sufi groups that I've seen here that are strictly on Quran and Sunnah, and I applaud them. And I give them praise. There's one here in in my area where I'm at. There's one masjid. There was a Sufi sheikh, Baba Muhyiddin, that came from Sri Lanka to here, where a lot of his disciples brought him from Sri Lanka to here. And that's one order that I've seen that has gotten it right when sticking with the Quran and Sunnah, where now the descendants of their disciples are now still taking care of that mosque and fellowship, and translated all of Baba's lectures from Tamil to English, CDs, books, literature. They're doing a service to help people come closer to God with the fellowships and not exploiting their members in any way. That's one exception that stood out to me. I haven't seen anybody besides them. And I personally went there, and I can, from my perspective as a Sufi from Pakistan, I can confirm what I felt in my heart when I was there in their presence. And that's that. And also, to be a Sufi, it's by your action. You can't be arrogant, you can't be disrespectful towards your family, yourself, your elders, those around you, those that put their faith in you, those that count on you. And you can't have this arrogance that I know better than others, or I'm above others, right? And the aspect of what many in the West get confused about, or they fall into dangerous territory when they say the concept of becoming a living God. That's dangerous. That's dangerous territory. Of course, Allah is within your heart. But, when you start delving off into that other stuff, then that's when you are setting yourself up for a disaster. So you gotta know how to differentiate the truth from falsehoods, from charlatans to true teachers, and which Sufi order, when you feel it out, you kind of see what the vibe is. And in my experience, you could sit here in the West without having to join any Sufi order in the West. You don't need to. It's like what the Sheikh from the Naqshbandi said in Pakistan, that as long you could just look at the face of the Sheikh and make the intent that I want to follow him, and boom, it's done. It's simple as that. And you can just follow their teachings, what they're putting out there, the practices that they're putting out, and you can do everything from the comfort of your own home. Live a good, clean life. Don't be arrogant. Don't be egotistical. Don't be delving into the New Age stuff and mixing it in with Islam and all this other stuff. And I'm saying this, somebody who also comes from my own path, and as you see from my videos, I make videos about all races, religions, and philosophies to teach people the oneness of all paths. And that's what the Sufi believes. But the oneness of all paths does not mean that you as a follower are mixing in, let's say you're traveling, it's one mountaintop, right? And you have road A, B, C, and D. So if you're trying to get to the mountaintop and you're mixing in all roads at once, trying to get to the mountaintop, like what they do, they're mixing all of these teachings from all of this stuff outside of Islam and the Quran into the Sufi path, then you're going to end up hurting yourself. The mountain's going to collapse because you're trying to merge all paths into one. And what happens is, there is truth in all paths. I'm not arguing against that. I'm not condemning that. But when you choose to follow something, follow that and adhere to its principles. So if you want to follow the New Age stuff, stick with that. Don't mix Islam with it. If it helps you become a better person and helps you become, let's say, close to God and all that stuff, then stick with that. If you're, into the Kemetic stuff, stick with that. If you're into this other stuff, Buddhist stuff, stick with that. Because then you're not just cheating Islam, then you're cheating that, let's say, the Buddhist path, the New Age path, by mixing and matching everything. So you gotta, like I said, from my Eastern perspective, not everybody might agree, but it's like myself, I point out the truth in all paths, that everything is teaching you a code of conduct, to think good, know good, do good. But you have to do the right thing by following these paths and giving them their due respect. If you're a Buddhist, be the best Buddhist that there is. If you're a Hindu, be the best Hindu that there is. If you're a New Ager into the spiritual stuff and all that stuff, you do what you're good at. So that way you're not cheating that path, you're not cheating yourself, you're not cheating the Sufi tariqas and their original teachings of esoteric Islam, etc., etc. You get what I'm trying to say to you? So that's what I mean. And it's recently what I told one of my friends recently, that never let any man exploit you, or any guru or man or anybody exploit you financially, sexually, emotionally, or spiritually. That's supposedly on the spiritual path. You find a lot of these guys here in America that take advantage of these said individuals who are traumatized, but they're in needing of healing and somebody to talk to, and they find these paths and they find these groups, and little do they know that there are people that are waiting to take advantage of them even in there. So you can do everything from the comfort of your own home. Follow something that works for you, live a good, clean life, And any path where there's arrogance or there's mixing and matching, where where a specific path is being cheated from its true purpose, then those are red flags. You gotta watch out for that. You know what I mean? Or if any members who have their own agendas, saying that they're the reincarnation of this being or that being, then it's like I said, that dangerous territory. You gotta watch out for that too. So it's just a generalization of what I believe about the Sufi orders in the West, except for that one that I pointed out that stood out to me as they're following strictly Quran and Sunnah. And they are teaching you the oneness of all paths. When you go to Baba Muhyiddin's fellowship here in Philadelphia, it doesn't matter if you're white, black, Pakistani. It doesn't matter. They welcome everybody. That's the true Sufi path. True love, true brotherhood, true fellowship. But they do not go outside of Quran and Sunnah. That's the one thing that I love about them. And they're part of the Qadiriyya Tariqah, which is part of what Baba was. So if anything like that, that's good. And I applaud them for that. Especially, Western disciples, and their disciples are still sticking to it, and their descendants are still upholding everything. So I give them credit for that, for individuals who are from the Western culture and society. So it's like I said, this is not a broad generalization, but to watch this with an open mind, and when I point out those red flags, keep those in mind also. And if there's any path that you follow, and give honor to that path, stick to that path, and don't mix and match things. And that's what will help you. That's what will help you. And that will basically point out the oneness of everything. And that's what my opinion on the Sufi orders in America, as someone from the East. And as you see, even from my education videos, the East is often very neglected here. So I always give credit to the East, no matter what path it is. But you gotta follow what works for you and then stick to that. Because if you're jumping from one thing to another, that's like people here who have a hard time keeping their word. Right? One day they say that they're this, the next day they're saying that they're that, next day they're just changing, and they can't keep their word. So be a man or woman of your word. That's when God is happy with you. And when you do that, that's when the blessings come in your life. So I hope I was able to answer my friend's question in the best way possible. I know I talk a lot, so I keep it under the 20-minute mark. My love and greetings to all of you. And again, this is not to condemn anybody. If there's a path that's helping you become a better person, helping you get close to God, if it's Sufism, great. If there's anything else, that's great also. I'm just telling you to not delve into a territory where you end up hurting yourself and others in the process. And to stay humble, keep your ego in check, and keep all those things in line, knowing that this is just a temporary human life. Enjoy it while you have it. Do good, be good, think good, and know good. Assalamu alaikum. Peace be upon you all.